Out of all of the months in the year so far, I've only successfully completed a TBR one singular time. I chose 6 books for my July TBR, and I always choose my TBR in my monthly wrap-up videos of the previous month. So in my June wrap-up and July TBR video, if I can remember correctly, I believe they were Shatter Me, Servant of Earth, Jazzed Crown, Quicksilver, Atlas 6, and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo. And so far, it's currently the 22nd of the month, and I have read a whopping 2 of those books, and I have 4 left over. The ones that I have left are The Seven Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo. I'm reading that currently on my Kindle, and I am halfway through that one. I also have Atlas 6 left. This is my friend's copy that she is lending to me to annotate. I have Quicksilver, which I just recently purchased, and also The Jazzed Crown. Both of these were in my recent book haul that I posted last week. So if you haven't watched that video, it was a really fun time. But as you can see, these 2 books especially are so chunky. They are 600 pages approximately each, and they are both quite intimidating. So I really want to read both of these, but these are the ones that I am most nervous about in comparison to just 200 pages left of Evelyn Hugo and Atlas 6, which I know that the writing in this book is more in detail and more pretentious, but it is less than 400 pages. So it's a lot smaller, and hopefully I'll read it a lot quicker. Here's the thing though, okay? Today is Tuesday. On Thursday at 5 in the morning, I am going to be getting on a flight to go to Chicago. I have a girls trip with my friends. We're going from Thursday to Sunday. It's going to be so much fun. I'm not sure if I'm going to vlog any clips. If I do, you will see them in this video. But that being said, out of the, let's see, week-ish that I have left to film this video before it needs to go out, half of that week is going to be me on vacation. So what are the odds that I can actually finish these 4 books in the next week? We're gonna try. We're gonna try. And I really want to start Atlas 6. My friend gave this to me as a book swap that I'm doing with her and one other friend. We're all like switching books and annotating each other's copies. And I've had this one for months and never read it. And I'm really feeling the inkling right now to read and annotate and just dive into this world. Olivia Blake's writing is very famous for being flowery and almost philosophical, but I'm very curious about it. And I've also wanted to read this book for literally 5 ever. And so I think it's about time that I get to it. And obviously they're both also on my TBR. So we need to get to it if this video is going to actually have any content to it. Let's just kind of see if I can finish this entire TBR in the next week-ish. Cross your fingers so I can make it happen. Good morning is the next day, and I have quite a few reading updates for you. I didn't really talk after first starting the vlog, but I am about halfway through 2 books at the minute, so let's yap about it. The first one is the one I was talking to you about yesterday, which is, get the pen out, The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. So I started this book yesterday afternoon, literally, and I'm already 40% of the way through. I'm on page 154, and this has 378-ish pages in it, so almost halfway there. And I won't lie, I'm really kind of enjoying this. I wasn't expecting to dislike it per se, but I've heard so many mixed things about Olivia Blake's writing and her pretentiousness that I was incredibly intimidated to go into this book, and I've put it off for like 4 years now since it's been on my TBR. But I am really liking it. This book is about the Alexandrian Society. Is that what it's called? Alexandrian Alexandrian society, which is this like incredibly prestigious invite-only society based around the lost Alexandrian library and thousands and millions of texts and resources from like millennia that are available to only a very select few in this magical world. So there's this guy named Atlas. Literally his name is Atlas Blakely, which throws me off because Atlas 6 and Olivia Blake, like hello. But he, at the beginning of the book, reaches out to 6 newly graduates to young adults, and they are all magical, and they all have very specific powers and are incredibly strong in their niche. And so he invites 6 of them to come to this Alexandrian society, and for a year they will learn, they will train, they will protect the society. And at the very end of the year, after like the whole like initiation process, only 5 of the 6 are selected. Now, I'm not sure what happens to that, last person. Something tells me deep down they probably get, but I don't know if they do or not. I'm just guessing here. But that's the basic premise of the story. So the 6 people we follow are Libby, Nico, Raina, Tristan, Callum, and Prizia? I don't know how to say her name. Parisa? And out of all 6 of them, I won't explain too much about them because it's going to take too long, but my favorites so far are Nico and I think Prizia. I think Nico because he has such a nice heart, and I just love his like golden retriever type character while also being incredibly powerful and incredibly intelligent. And then Prizia is more of a bitch, I won't lie, but she's such a cutthroat, cold-hearted mindset that I honestly really admire it. I won't lie, she's really cool. And I'm really curious to see how this goes. Now, writing style-wise, it is very intelligently written, I'll say that. She uses very big vocabulary, complicated sentence structures. Okay, so here's one example of a paragraph. This is on page 154, but I don't think it's very spoilery. It says, "Intelligence was an underwhelming word. Tristan was more than simply witty or clever or knowledgeable. He was quick and always the first to see when something was wrong. He had, for better or worse, a breathtaking apathy to almost everything, which only collided with derision when something was problematically out of place. Raina could not decide whether that intuitive cruelty was worse with Callum, who couldn't be bothered with any of their work, or with Prizia, who seemed to find herself above it." I don't know, she just uses big vocabulary and stuff, and she has very thought-provoking passages, but then also she can be quite funny, I won't lie. Like the first time that we meet Libby, which is one of our main characters, literally on page 14, the first sentence is, "The day Libby Rhodes met Nicholas Ferrer de Verona was coincidentally also the day she discovered that incensed, a word she had previously had no use for, was now the only conceivable way to describe the sensation of being near him. All of the days since that one had been a futile exercise in restraint." Like, that's funny, no? I don't know, I'm quite enjoying it, more than I thought I would. I'm completely annotating this copy because it's my friend's copy. I'm sure you can't even like see everything I've written here, but I have quite a few little tabs and notes, and it's going by faster than I thought it would, probably because it's quite short, but I am enjoying it. So this is book 1 that I'm in the middle of. Like I said, about 40-ish, almost halfway to 50%. The other book that I'm in the middle of, I've actually been reading for longer than I've been filming this video. I did mention it yesterday, but I have been listening to the audiobook of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for a couple of days now, and yesterday I was about 50% of the way through whenever I filmed my first clip, and since then I've gotten to 65% of the way through it, and I'm really quite enjoying this one as well. The plot of this one is very different. This is Taylor Jenkins Reid, who very commonly does historical literary fiction. So we follow 2 characters. One is named Monique, who is a journalist in 2020, or modern day, and then the other one is Evelyn Hugo, who is an elderly woman at the modern day, but in the 50s she was an incredibly famous Hollywood actress. I think she kind of takes inspiration from who Marilyn Monroe is to like real life American culture. Like Evelyn Hugo is blonde, beautiful, a great actress, a star, always in the tabloids. But ever since her like rise to fame in the 50s and 60s, she has become incredibly private with her life. Monique, who, like I said, is a journalist of, a relatively successful company, gets contacted to interview Evelyn for a piece. So very curious plot. We're like, why does Evelyn specifically want Monique? What is the deal here? What is the catch? And also, as told by the cover/title of this book, Evelyn Hugo at one point in her life had 7 separate husbands, not coincidentally, like separately, but still like 7 different marriages, 7 different divorces. And so the question that Monique is asking her basically throughout the entire thing is, who was the true love of Evelyn Hugo's life? Was it one of the husbands? Which one was it? Was it not one of the husbands? Like, this is the question we're all asking ourselves. I've read multiple books by Taylor Jenkins Reid before. I've read Daisy Jones and also Malibu Rising, and I really liked both of those. So I am, loving her writing style. I am really enjoying this, but I will will say that at the 65-ish% mark, it's not my favorite of hers. I think my favorite has to be Daisy Jones and the Six. That one is incredible. This one is still really good, really interesting. Evelyn grew up Spanish American, quite poor, I think with a single dad, and she grew herself up to be this incredibly famous actress. And so she is very cutthroat. She is very particular. She will do what she needs to do to get her name out there, to be successful, to be the number one. And she is always fighting for that spot. And so it's interesting to follow a character who most definitely has flaws and has issues, but you can understand where she's coming from because of how she was raised and because of the situations that she's been put in. And she really does handle every conflict like full force. And I gotta admire that. I truly do. So we will see how the rest of this book goes. I will just say as well, because this book has been so popular for so long, it literally has 3 million reviews on Goodreads, which is mind-boggling. And because it's been, talked about and I've known about it since like 2020, I have been spoiled for a couple of plot twists, but I think all the stuff that I already knew before going into this, I have since passed. So everything from like the 50% onward mark, I did not remember or just didn't know, which is great because I don't really want to predict an entire book. I want to be surprised when I read it. So that is how this book is going. And I'm reading quite quickly. I'm reading a lot as of yesterday and today. So I'm hoping that I can at least get these 2 books done maybe before the end of this weekend. It's currently Wednesday, and then I'll have a couple more days left to squeeze out 2 more. We'll have to see. This has been such a hectic day. Oh my goodness. I leave for Chicago tomorrow. So I was doing a lot of filming today and editing in preparation for what I need to post during the trip. I wanted to get this all done beforehand, but last weekend I was also out of town. So it's been a really hectic couple of days. So I was editing and doing stuff and I'm not even packed yet at all. I'm leaving tomorrow morning at like 3-4 a.m. And also it is so flippin' hot in here because the AC in our house is broken. Just upstairs, like downstairs is fine, but upstairs it's literally reading 80 degrees when it's set to 68. It is like so sweaty, so hot and sweaty. But yeah, we're doing fine, we're chilling. Although actually we're not, because I'm here to talk to you because I finished The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and I need to talk about it. I do. To no one's surprise, no one's shock, this is a phenomenal book. This is so good. Taylor Jenkins Reid truly never misses. This is my 3rd book by her and it's all been super high ratings for me. I just really enjoyed this, but not to keep you in suspense for too much longer, I gave Evelyn Hugo 4 stars. I thought it was a really fantastic book. I thought that she handled so many great topics, and I actually want to get into a spoiler section, but I'll do that in just a minute. Let's get the general thoughts out of the way first. I thought that her writing style is, as usual, very straight to the point, very simple, but she has such a powerful message in everything that she writes. All her characters are very compelling, very interesting. She plots the book and paces it so well. There's never a dull moment, never. We like Monique, but we spend very little time with her because the juice, the tea is in Evelyn, right? Evelyn, this is her story. This is her book, and everything that happens to her is either tragic or fantastic. It's just drama, to be honest. It's so interesting to listen to, but it's also, although this character is fictional, there are so many people, at least I assume, in real life who have experienced something very similar to Evelyn. And so this kind of puts a voice out to people who've had to change the way that they live their lives and keep secrets from the public and things like that because of their fame, their popularity, and what the American culture decides is normal, especially in the 1950s. So there is so much to this book, so much to unpack. It's a 4-star, a really high 4-star, really enjoyed it 4-star. That being said, this is a book checked off my TBR. I'm very excited to have finished it and finally know the lore and get the hype that everyone's been talking about for the past like 5 years. Now I do want to get into a short spoilery section, so I'll put timestamps here on the screen. If you want to skip spoilers, skip to this timestamp right here. It shouldn't be too long. I do just want to yap though, because I feel like I went into this knowing some spoilers and I don't want you to be spoiled in case you haven't heard what I'm about to say here yet. So skip to this timestamp, give you just a second. 3, 2, 1. All right, spoilers starting right now. It is no surprise or no shock if you've ever read a Taylor Jenkins Reid book that she likes to put a lot of LGBTQ rep in her books. This was no exception. Evelyn's story was so curious because she has 7 husbands, but the true love of her life being Celia, her fellow co-star and fellow actress in Hollywood, was just so cool to read about because, again, like I said a second ago, I'm sure there are so many people who had this Hollywood experience, who maybe was gay or lesbian or bi and had to hide that because in the 50s that was very much not a socially acceptable thing to be. Obviously, we can disagree with that now 100%, and even Evelyn did then all the time, but in order to keep her fame, keep her money, keep her popularity, be employed, to be honest. She had to hide that part of herself, and it's very sad. And it's sad watching them all like struggle with what was the right and wrong thing to do. And even Evelyn said herself, like, she made so many mistakes in her life, and it was so interesting to follow a character who is so flawed and by the end of her life knew that she was so flawed. But I do think that it was just a beautiful story to read, because being in Evelyn's head, like, even though she makes so many mistakes, we support her, and we support her during the struggle that she had, multiple struggles actually, during her fame. Out of all the deaths, because truly, not only does it take place in the 50s, so most of the characters are dead at this point, but she outlived her entire family, all of her loved ones she outlived, and it was so tragic to read about. The number one death, though, that really broke me was Harry. Harry is my favorite character from the entire book. I love Evelyn, she's such a badass. I do enjoy Celia, but Harry being her agent, her absolute best friend, her number one confidant, like, they loved each other so deeply, even at just a platonic level. They actually were married, as y'all know. He was one of the 7 husbands, but he was also dating someone else. He was such a good friend to her and was always so supportive of her, and I just really, really loved him. So his very tragic death was really heartbreaking to me, and the last scene of them together before the death, with them saying that they're each other's best friends, like, I did shed a tear. I think y'all saw, actually, that's when I shed a tear. I was like, it hit me in the feels, it really did. And then there was John's death and Celia's death and Connor's death even before Evelyn. Like, that must be so tragic to live or outlive all of your relatives, all of your loved ones by decades. And then at the very, very end, the plot twist with Monique's dad, not gonna lie, didn't shock me, because I read other books by her and she uses a similar technique of the person who is doing the interviewing, doing the recording here, is somewhat related to the story that they're talking about. So I wasn't really too shocked by that. I do wish they spent a little more time with it. Not necessarily like the actual car accident, but maybe just like more of Monique remembering her dad or something, to give more emphasis that this is a bigger character, because it felt just a little bit of a shocking plot twist that could have been delved into more. But I really shouldn't complain that much, because it was still really good. And then finally ending out the book with Evelyn, trigger warning for suicide, but she ended her own life. And that was a choice that she made because she didn't want to succumb to breast cancer that she had, and incredibly tragic, but honestly such an Evelyn way to go out. I won't lie, like, that's very much in her character. She would do that. Was it the right choice? Was it the wrong choice? Up for everyone to decide individually, but that's literally how the entire book is written, is Evelyn makes this choice whether you like it or not. You can decide on your own if it's the good thing or the bad thing, but she's gonna make it anyway, and that's just the choice that she's gonna make. So it was sad, I won't lie, but also it was well written, straight to the point, and really good. So, spoilers over. This is it. Done yapping, because I need to go pack. I need to go do my nails. Very important things before I leave for Chicago. And that's gonna be it. So I will see you guys after, hopefully, a nice little, maybe short vacation montage. And we'll check in for how much of my TBR I have read in the next couple of days. All right, see you later. Long time no see, besties. How are we? It was probably like 30 seconds for you, but it's been like almost a week for me since I last spoke. Well, a week is insane. It's been like 4 or 5 days since I've last spoken to you. I have gone to Chicago and come back, and I'm sure you guys saw all those vlog clips. It was such a fun trip, and I have a lot to update you from the trip, and also how far my reading is with this TBR that I'm trying to finish in, at this point, 3 days. I think it's the 29th. Yeah, it is. And July ends on the 31st. So you know, can you guess how much progress we've made? Okay, well, whatever you're thinking, think worse. But let me just like backtrack for myself for a second. Last time we talked, I think I was wrapping up my thoughts on Evelyn Hugo. Those still stand true. And I was like almost halfway through Atlas 6. Now, I tried to read Atlas 6 on the plane on the way there, and I did get some progress. And I think I honestly made, well, I'd say more progress in this book than I thought I did, but truly I think I've gotten like 30 pages further. And since the time that I last spoke to you in this book, I would be lying if I said that I am just as intrigued about this as I was when I first started. The very beginning had me really excited about it. I really felt like I was getting into this book, and I was learning what the writing style was. I was kind of rolling with the punches a little bit. I knew that I wouldn't get like everything yet, but I was trying to deal with the unknown for a little while. And then, you know, I was listening to Evelyn Hugo and I was packing for the trip, and on the plane I just could not get very far into this. I was going so slowly, I was half falling asleep. For the record, it was like a 6 a.m. flight, so it was like really early in the morning, but it just wasn't working for me. So I ended up doing some editing and then eventually falling asleep, and I didn't get much done. And then, hate to break it to you, I haven't touched this book since the flight. I really haven't. I made not really a mistake per se, but a bad choice for this video, and I picked up a different book entirely. And I vlogged it a little bit, you may have seen it, but before I talk about it, I want to talk about the other stuff that has to do with Chicago, because I just finished that other book last night and I think other things happened before then that I want to catch you up with chronologically. So first thing is, on one of the first days in Chicago, we went to this independent bookstore called, I think it was Last Chapter Bookstore. I vlogged it, y'all saw it, and it was such a cute little romance only bookstore in this place called, I think it's Roscoe Park. The book that I got there, because I could not go and not buy a book. I mean, I know I just did a book haul in my last video, and I definitely have too much on my TBR that I need to read. However, I'm still going to buy a romance book at a romance-only bookstore in Chicago and support local bookstores. You know, it's like my justification for this is that I'm supporting local being in Chicago. But the point is, I bought Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. So this is the first book in her first ever release, like literally her first work that she's published, I believe, is Off to the Races, aka book 1 in the Gold Rush Ranch series. This is the same publisher that publishes Lauren Asher's books, because yeah, it's Bloom. And I say that because the font in this book is legitimately like comically large. Like there are like 12 words per page. I feel like this would be a very easy, quick palette cleanser. I know it's not going to be as good as Chestnut Springs because authors usually get better, and I know that Elsie is getting better, but I have faith that her first book is still super good, so I want to read this series as well. Really excited about this. The other thing I got at that exact same store is a little, it's kind of hard to see, Kindle charm. This was just like a last minute pickup, and it was $8, which I think is a little high, but it's this little like gold bow that you just like stick into the charging port of your Kindle, and it's just like a little charm. This is not revolutionary. I've seen people have charms on their Kindles before, but this has given me so much serotonin this weekend, like just looking at this little dangling thing and like seeing it. Yeah, I'm pretty obsessed with it. I think it looks so cute. What I wanted to say book update wise is that over the 4 days and nights that we were there, whenever I was reading, I was not reading the Atlas 6. I am in Madison Kate's Patreon book club, and first of all, I love her. She is such an inspiration to me. I love her videos. I love her vibe. She's so nice. I love the book club. And for, let's see what month it is, July. Duh, Sophie, it's the July TBR video. Our book club pick was Time of Your Life by Jessa Hastings. Now, background. This book has a lot of controversy out right now. I know that she had this Instagram blow up thing about using generative AI, and her opinion is that it is very much okay to use AI in creating art. She had this whole like Instagram story thing. I don't want to get too much into the controversy. I don't know very much about it. My opinion is that if you are creating art, if you're creating work, whether it's writing, drawing, things like that, AI is cheating, stealing people's work, because in order to create something with a computer, they need something to generate that new something, so they are using other stolen artists' work. That could be like actual art, it could be writing, it could be song lyrics, whatever it is. It is one thing to use AI to spell check, it's another thing to use AI to create art. That being said, I'm trying to separate artist and the art itself. So in the case of this book, and in the case of Jessa Hastings, I really hope that was just a one-time incident and that she will, you know, get her head screwed on a little straighter about all that. But at the same time, I'm not gonna like boycott her books because I disagree with her on this like AI thing, you know? So I still read this book. I actually read the entire thing, mostly on the trip. It was a very fast, under 400 page book, and I finished it last night. You saw me probably vlogging like a couple clips of it, not much at all. So let me explain like the whole plot as well. This book is eerily similar to Magnolia Parks in that it's like Magnolia Parks, but in the 90s, basically. We follow this guy named, Joah, so it's Joah, I believe, and then Ysolde, so Yisold? I could be butchering that so bad. She used, like, for some reason, the most obscure names for the main characters, and then nobody else in these books, but Joah Yisold. Yisold is a model, crazy famous supermodel. She works with very high luxury brands in London, and Joah is the lead singer of Fable, which is like a rock band, super popular, right? And they meet at a bar, and it is pretty much insta-love, and we follow their relationship as they grow so interdependent on each other, like so almost dangerously interdependent on each other. And then towards the end, things start to fall apart, and we get very similar to Magnolia Parks, where the two love interests start butting head to head, and they start purposefully doing things to hurt each other and sabotage their relationship, and they get back together and they break up again, and they don't communicate and they break up, you know what I'm saying? Do I feel like this is quite copy paste from Magnolia Parks? Yes, I do. However, it works again with this story. I feel I gave this book 4 stars. I finished it last night. I have some problems with it for sure. I think that, is this the only formula that she can write? Can she give the characters more depth and broaden them more than what we see at Magnolia Parks? Also, Joah and Yisold had very much insta love, and I don't hate insta love in general. I mean, I can read it if I feel it's believable, but them coming back together, do I feel that they truly will stay together forever like I do with Magnolia and BJ? No, because I don't have that background, that history, and the depth that Magnolia and BJ have in these new characters. They just seemed like Magnolia and BJ put in the 90s and then strip a little bit of their personality off and their history off. I feel like Jess has spent the time in this book developing the fame and the popularity side of their characters and that plot line. That time was used for that instead of actually developing their own personalities. So it has its flaws for sure, but it was incredibly easy to read. It read so fast. I was hooked from page 1. I love her writing style. I love how she writes dialogue and banter. She truly is quite funny sometimes. I don't love the protagonists, but I can read a book where I don't love the protagonists and still enjoy the book itself. So yeah, this was 4 stars. I won't lie, like it was quite good. It was quite addicting. I didn't know it was actually going to be a 2-part book series. I thought it was a standalone, but turns out it is actually a 2-parter. So the sequel should be coming out at some point, and I will definitely read it. And yeah, was this part of my TBR for July? Absolutely not. It was not, but it was part of my book club book, and I did want to read it for that. So although this absolutely derails like our entire point of the video, like yeah, we lost the plot. We lost the plot, but I also feel like this is my video. I make the rules, and also that I needed to read this anyway for July. So, you know, you do what we can do. But we still have a few more days left in the month, and I still have more books to read, because out of that 6-book TBR, I've only read 3 of them, and I am halfway through number 4, but it needs to be finished. I know I have low hopes too. I really do, that we're going to finish all of these books by the end of the month, but we're going to try to get as much done as possible. Okay, I'm going to promise you that. So that's the update for now. Well, we will see. You will see, I will see, we all will see. I know that this little segment is definitely off topic from this video, but bear with me for a minute because this is very important to me. Since we're over halfway through the year, I've been looking back on my ratings, and I always, debate in my head a lot of books if they deserve the rating that I gave them, if they need to be lowered or bumped up, whatever it is. I was thinking recently that I need to start thinking when I rate a book of how I would rate it out of 10. For me, 5 stars is the max for a book, not 10. It should go in a scale of 5. But if I think to myself, how do I rate this out of 10, and then divide that number by 2, I feel like it's more accurate to my true thoughts on a book. When I feel like a book is almost 5 stars, I usually give it a 4.5. But if I was really to think about a book that was almost perfect but not quite, if I'm thinking 8 out of 10, that's a 4-star read, because 8 divided by 2 is 4, obviously. This might be relevant to literally no one, but for me, I think it's going gonna make my rating more accurate, more fair, because I tend to round up when I think in the 5-star scale, but if I think out of 10, there's more room for me to be more accurate. At least that's what I'm tricking my brain into believing. So you're watching me kind of go through right now and reevaluate my ratings on Goodreads for all the books that I've read this year. If you note, a couple of my ratings have changed on Goodreads from what I've said in past videos. This is why. I'm trying to be very brutally honest because I want the best of the best books to truly be amazing, and I want everything else to fall accordingly down the scale. All right, thank you for taking a minute out of your time to placate me. Let's get back to the reading vlog. Hello lovelies, how are we? Happy, what day is it? Oh, it's Thursday. Literally the day this video was supposed to go out, but I think I'm gonna postpone it 2 more days because it's currently July 31st and I have our update to finish out how much of the July TBR I actually read in this vlog. In hindsight, I think that maybe starting this entire video with Atlas 6 was maybe a bad idea. Now, I just finished this book a couple of hours ago and I do have lots of thoughts on it, but before I get into that, I just want to say that this book is not the book to read when you're trying to read quickly. And I learned that the hard way because I knew that this was going to be a more complicated read, a more in-depth read, but truly with my vacation, with my little time of your life intermission, and with the pace of this book, it took me, I think, 9 days to read. I think that's correct. I think it was the 22nd to the 31st. So I hate to break it to you, but I have read nothing else but this book that you haven't already seen in this video. A little disappointing. But finishing this book is still an accomplishment in its own because this has been on my TBR since, like I said, 2020, I believe, and I finally have it accomplished. So let's talk about it with no spoilers, because I feel like if I got into spoilers, this clip would be like as long as the voice memo I sent to my best friend, which was like 12 minutes long. So let's not do that. But after finishing, my thoughts in general are Olivia Blake's writing is incredible. Is it pretentious? Yes. Is it overwritten? Probably. She uses big words, long sentence structures. I've talked about this before. I've given examples in this video. It's hard to truly like tell it to you without you experiencing it yourself, but she will purposefully make things complicated with her writing style, with the way that she withholds information from you purposefully. She will twist your head around and make you think in circles and try to keep up with her until the very, very end of this book. And so I started out this book with so much excitement and I went into it very, very fast. I was surprised when I was watching my clips back in this vlog and I was like, oh my gosh, I read 140 pages in like a matter of a day or two. Like, that's crazy. Like, how was I reading that fast? Because the remaining 200 pages of this book took me like a week to read. So I was like, whoa, that's insane. Again, after finishing, I think the beginning was truly very, very interesting, very suck you in, very impactful. And the ending, like the last 50, maybe 80 pages was also really, really good because we were getting answers. But there is 100 to 150 page chunk in the middle of this book where I believe that genuinely nothing happened. It was all discussions, and discussions are important, you know. Olivia Blake uses the conversations between characters to show the relationships between them and to explain the character, or I guess relationships, like the ways they interact with each other, who trusts who is friends with who hates who. It's through their dialogue, and she writes very good dialogue, but also, like I said, she withholds information from us on purpose. So the middle section of this book was just people talking and us as readers not understanding what they're talking about. Like, you can know what the words mean, you can read a sentence and say, yes, I understand that, but in the grand scheme of things, what are they researching? What is their end goal here? What is the point of the Alexandrian society? Who's going to be the one that doesn't get initiated? All of these questions that we have are simply not answered, and we are stuck wandering in circles for so long, and that's why this book really dragged for me, because I just couldn't understand. And I get that not understanding is the point, and I get that the process you have to go through is being confused because a lot of the characters are also confused. I understand that that is the intention of this book. However, did I like that process? No. Majority of it I did not like. The part that I did like, however, was getting to the very, very end, and there is a plot twist with a character that I really was not expecting. Again, no spoilers. I want to keep this very, very open-ended and very broad. I would say that there was one character I wanted to have more of an impact on the ending, and instead it was someone else, but I digress. The ending, though, with the plots that we got, the information that we were given, was really almost like shoved down into our faces. Like, we got answers quick, but it was satisfying because I spent a week not knowing, you know. I was just in confusion, I was lost, and I finally get to the end and the puzzle pieces start clicking, and then you're like, oh, that makes sense. This is clicking. This makes sense. This little tidbit of information that just barely caught my eye literally 200 pages ago. Oh, that's why she put that in there, because of this bit at the end. I don't know how to explain it in any way that's less vague than this, without getting into spoilers, but let me just tell you, the ending was so satisfying. And I read the majority of this book thinking that I was not going to finish the series. I was just going to call this a one and done because I was slogging through the middle so slowly. But now, after finishing, I am contemplating continuing the series. I won't lie. I have some holdups, part of it being that I know that this is a lot of character, not plot, and usually I'm okay with that, but I don't really feel connected to a lot of these characters. I really like Nico, I like Gideon, I like Libby, and I like Parisa. But everybody else, character-wise, I really don't care about, and so it's hard for me to go into a book 2 where I know it's 90% character and 10% plot, but I don't actually like those characters very much. And then the other thing too is that this is indie published. If I was going to go into book 2, should I read the trad published version, or are there many changes because the rest of the series is traditionally published? It's a lot to think about. Future Sophie has those answers, current Sophie does not, okay? But what I do have is a rating for this book, and I decided on a 3.5 star. I think that's very fair. The beginning, I was really leaning towards like 4 stars because it was really hooking me in, but it dropped half a star with that middle section. Actually, probably dropped to a 3 star with that middle section because I was just like so sick of this book. But then at the very end, it brought it back up again. So it's kind of like a roller coaster of a ride there. But again, I am very satisfied and accomplished in the fact that this book is now done, and I can say that I've read it and I know what happens, and I'm at least happy that it is completed. So this was the last book in today's video. 3.5 stars. Feel confident with that. If you have any non-spoilery thoughts, I would love to hear your thoughts below, because I really am curious about people's take on this one. I know it's very popular, but also it's kind of also infamous in some ways. The last thing I will mention too is I want to do a video type on my channel, which I haven't done before, and that is book summary videos. I want to make an in-depth summary, complete with spoilers, for a book. That way, if you didn't want to read the book, you could just watch my video and get all of the information you would need. I know Carrie can read, does this a lot, and I love her videos, so I want to do something kind of similar to that, and I was thinking about doing it with the Atlas 6 because it is so convoluted and complicated and could use a summary even after reading to kind of get your thoughts in order. So if you would be interested in a video like that, completely explaining this book cover to cover, please comment down below and let me know that you'd be interested in watching it with this book or any other book that I've read, because I think it would be fun, but it would also be a project to get a video like that out, and I want to make sure that you guys are interested. So that's that on the Atlas 6. Like I mentioned earlier in this vlog, this is not my copy, this is my friend's copy, and I annotated it for her, but I do have literally the exact same book. This is mine that I've owned for years, so I think I'm just gonna literally replicate all of these annotations in this one as well. It might take me a hot second, I won't lie, but I want to have a copy just as marked up as hers with all of my thoughts in it. So that is a project for me for the future. Mine is a little less beat up than hers, but you know, this is gonna be me this evening. But yeah, with that being said, since it is the 31st, I don't think I can complete a 600-page book in the next 8 hours left in the day. I'm going to probably end out the vlog here with a final summary of the July TBR. So far in the month, I read 2 books before starting this vlog. I read 2 books off of my TBR in this vlog. I also read one that was not on my TBR, but you know, what are you gonna do? That leaves 2 books that I haven't read on my July TBR, and unfortunately this one this month is still unfinished. But you know what, I'm not that mad about it, because 4 out of 6 I feel like is still pretty good for me considering I usually just pick my TBRs for fun, and if I don't finish them, it's not the end of the world, you know, it's kind of whatever. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video nonetheless. As always, subscribe. I post reading vlogs and other bookish videos every single Thursday, except for today. You're probably watching this on a Saturday, but most Thursdays the videos are up. I love you so much. Have an amazing week, and I will see you next Thursday. Goodbye.